thank you for joining us. We try to keep this session secret, but I see that some of you heard about it. Thank you so much for coming. It's going to be a very interesting session. I just want to ask a few questions before we'll begin. If you're an entrepreneur, if you have a startup, please raise your hand. If you're an investor, please raise your hand. If you're coming from a corporate, please raise your hand. What do you do, guys? Seeing spies. If you're a spy, if you're working, I don't know, what do you do? Okay, oh, you're a spy. Perfect. Not a very good one, though. Let's talk about that later. So thank you for coming. My name is Menny Barzilay. I have a company. The company's name is FortyTwo. If you know why 42 is an important number, please raise your hand. Okay, you know? Nobody else knows? You can ask her later. I'm a cybersecurity expert, and I do a lot of projects with regard to cybersecurity. Today, I'm going to moderate this very super exciting session with our very cool speakers. This is the name of this session is how are startups innovating cities. Startups are pushing hard to disrupt the smart city industry with their innovations, new products and services for redesigning the life in the cities and enhancing the well-being of the citizens. Being an entrepreneur is more than something that you do as a state of mind. It's something that you are. A group of accelerator programs, innovation institutions, and smart city foundations will talk about their perspective on the role of startups in the smart city industry, how they are entering the market, and what challenges they are facing. We have 5 great speakers. Each of them will have 12 minutes to share some light about their ideas and what they are doing. I want to start, without further ado, with our first speaker, Beatrice. Just a second. I want to read your bio. Okay. Beatrice Couture, General Manager, InnoCité. Beatrice is the General Manager of InnoCité. InnoCité. Is it better? InnoCité? Yeah. She tried to teach me, and I'm always, sorry. A startup accelerator in the smart city field, based in Montreal, Canada. Lawyer by training, she works previously in Joe Media as Vice President of Legal Affairs and was manager at bike sharing services, public bike system company, Big C. Beatrice, if you're ready, we're ready for you. Do you need the...
Yes, I can do that.
Perfect.
So, hi. So, first of all, I just want to introduce shortly what we are trying to do at InnoCité. So, with InnoCité, we bring together the startups and the cities. Not necessarily easy to do. So basically, we are a startup accelerator, and we have a acceleration program. We work in collaboration with the city of Montreal so that we provide mentorship to our startups as well as a test bench with the city. So basically what we offer to the startups that are coming to our accelerator is a 12-week program, and they get complete training. They work on their value prop, go-to-market, scalability, and our biggest offer is our mentor ecosystem. So we made sure that we gathered 3 types of mentors. So city mentors, of course, because for a startup, it's 2 different worlds, right? So you need to make sure that you have city mentors to be able to give feedback to the startups. Because it's a really different world for them. And we also provide entrepreneurs that are mentors that really started from scratch as well, selling to cities, so that they understand the sales cycles and all they need to know about selling to cities. What we also brought on the table is a network of corporate mentors, corporate executive. So these corporate executives they have a big network that they can share with our startup. And also these corporations can become eventually clients of our startup, as well as strategic partners who can help them scale to the next level. And of course, the last thing that we offer as well is a proof of concept. So the possibility for certain of our startup to be able to test their product with the city and gain credibility, because we know that you need that to be selling to a public administration. So the question today was how startups are innovating cities. Well, I'm not going to tell you that only one startup is going to make the city smarter. Startups and working with cities are a tool. So they're not the only solution for innovating, but they can certainly bring something on the table that I will show you. So for me, there's 3 reasons why startups are innovating cities. I also want to tell you, of course, that a smart city is different for every city, and no one has the same definition of and the same need as a smart city. So then how startups are these great tools that city can use to be able to innovate. So first of all, I will describe these 3 reasons, and then I will explain why I think these are 3 reasons why startups are innovating cities. So startups must be iterative to survive. Secondly, accessibility and simplicity of their solution is key to their success. And startups are all about sharing. So first of all, startups are constantly iterating their product based on experimentation. So startups are not waiting for the best solution to be ready to go to market. They go to market and they use the information to improve their product and to get as much users as possible for their products. So it's really important, because I will give you an example of what I mean by that. It's startups being iterative and always improving their products and always listening to their user feedbacks are actually providing a tool for the city to know what their citizen needs and to adapt to what citizen needs. So for instance, parking. Remember that you probably had that problem before. Sometimes parking signs are a mess. So I have in my accelerator right now a startup called Parking, which on its own decided to become the parking solution. So they figured out from data on their app, they help citizens, first of all, find parking on the street, where to park, and make sure that they make sense of all these signs. But when they got the data and they realized from the feedback of their users that the data was not up to date. So what have they done with that? Well, they simply provided the opportunity for their users to be able to provide feedback and actually send reports when there was a mistake in between the data and the actual signs. So you see, they saw that as an opportunity, not as a problem. So this is great because it helps cities, first of all, because now on this app, all the information is updated and the citizens are happy and are engaged with this company. So then the second reason why I think startup are good at innovating city, it's accessibility and simplicity of the product. So for a startup, if your product is not user-friendly, you're gonna fail. This is the key to success, right? You can have a great idea, but if you don't know how to execute it properly, and if you don't have the best product, well, it's not gonna happen, and you might fail. So, for instance, I have a startup in my accelerator that is doing a platform to help cities have public services, digital public services. So they come with a new approach, saying that, well, the user need to have a user-friendly experience, but the city as well, on their side, need to have a very good user experience. So they bring that on the table, and it is something that is available on the market and that the city can use easily. And it's innovation that is out there and that can be used. Then startups are all about sharing. So there's problems that sometimes involve many different parts in society and in cities. So startups bring to the table their way and being able to use technology to leverage what is out there, use data, for instance, and collect data and mingle it together so that it can really make sense to the end user. So there's nothing like an example. Take the example of traffic congestion. I'm sure many people in this room have this problem. So there's a startup called Netlift. So what is Netlift doing? Netlift did not reinvent a way to travel differently about the city, not at all. They used the actual data and they used the actual modes of transportation that were available out there and break the silos so that a suburban that lives 50 kilometers away from downtown can have a great experience mixing car sharing and carpooling with their neighbors, as well as optimizing the route of the person in the person cocktail transportation to optimize their way to get to their daily life downtown. So that's really important because you need in a city to be able to break silos, and these are the kind of solution that maybe cities can not come up on their own, but startups, that's what they do. They just use technology to mix data together and make things that are simplifying the life of their end users. So then I told you 3 reasons why I think that startups are innovating cities. But, well, you're going to tell me, well, but what are we doing with that? And what are you recommending for a city to do with that? Well, it's 2 words, and it seems simple, but no, I know it's not as simple as it is. But my advice is communicate and collaborate. So first of all, communicate as a city to be and I don't know how many people from a city are in the room, but I hope that you can convey the message if you guys in the room can convey the message. So basically, express your problems and not your solution. It's really important. You should. A great way to do it is really to come up and do challenges with the startup community. Express what are your problems and see what's coming out there. And one thing, and I noticed in this conference, and I knew it before, but I really noticed, particularly in the last couple of days, is that cities should share more together. So if you are worrying about the political effect of sharing your problems, maybe you should mingle with other cities and share your problems together. That's I'm sure some of you have the same problems. And then secondly, collaborate. So the 3 examples I gave, the 3 startups that I gave as an example, as a city, you can engage with them, share your data, share information, and sometimes do a pilot project with them. It's pretty easy, and you start with a small project, and then you contaminate. You do a success, and then you can do other projects and getting better at this. So my advice to you is please try. Because doing nothing is probably the worst risk that you have. So what about risk? Because as we know, cities have procurement rules. In doing a pilot project and spending not that much money on a solution, on a small project with a startup, for let's say $10,000. I'm wondering what is more risky between doing that or spending 2 years doing an RFP and then having a solution, buy a solution for a lot of money, and then 2 years after, when this solution is actually implemented, is outdated. I think that trying and doing something is a good idea. Do a small project and try it at least. It's my advice to manage your risk. So that's it for InnoCité. We are looking for startups for our next cohort. So if ever you know startups, the deadline to subscribe to apply is December 14th. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any startups, remember this message. This session is conducted by 4 years from now. I want to tell you what 4 years from now. You might have seen the letters 4, F, Y, and N. This is 4 years from now. It's a movement. It's an idea. 4 years from now, as the home of the growing global tech startup community, as a business platform, 4 years for now create lasting connections among startups, investors, and corporations, under the belief that the startup culture is the driving force for change in economy and business fabric. So the guys from 4 years from now are in charge of this session. I want to thank them all, and they are here. You can grab them after this session. Our next speaker, Simon Sylvester Chaudhuri, Managing Director, Global Future Group. Founder of the New York City Smart City Data Meetup, Simon is currently the Managing Director of Global Futures Group, a firm providing insights into the realities and possibilities of cities around the world. He previously helped to launch the tech incubator Urban Future Lab. Simon?
Hello. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you for 4 years for now and the whole FIRA team who put on the conference. I always say the best thing about presenting at the end of a conference is if it doesn't go very well, then I only have a couple hours to burn in shame. So we'll see how this goes. So my name's Simon Sylvester Chaudhuri. I'm at Global Futures Group. We're a smart city consultancy firm based in New York City. My past is I worked with NYU and helped launch their incubators, most specifically one called the Urban Future Lab, which is in downtown Brooklyn. At the moment, they have about 20 companies from all over the world. And it initially started in the area of clean tech, so energy efficiency, distributed generation, grid tech, mobility and transportation. It's been around for about 5 or 6 years. We've raised about $170 million of venture capital for companies and created about 130 jobs in addition to those of the founders. So local problems and local solutions. I think this is a concept that most of us here know. Cities are increasingly facing problems that require smart and local solutions with international knowledge and resources. So globally, one issue that I really identified, or a few issues that I really identified working at the Urban Future Lab is, yes, especially in the smart city space, smart city startups don't necessarily have the allure that the Facebooks and Twitters have. So they have limited access to capital. They have limited access to local talent globally. I did a lot of work in Shanghai, in Abu Dhabi, and while entrepreneurship ecosystems have been emerging in other places in the world, they're just starting to emerge now. And so in areas like engineering, computer science, there's still a little bit of a lack of local talent. Unsupportive legal frameworks, likewise, policymakers and old school policy frameworks have not been designed in the past to encourage bottom-up approaches that all these entrepreneurs on stage are working with. So from an incubator standpoint and a startup standpoint, this has been a big hurdle that we've had to tackle. And lastly, while I really love venture capital, it's a great concept. I've always wanted to be a venture capitalist, and we're working actually towards creating a fund ourselves. Venture capital is not the only the only tool and mechanism that startups can use to scale. In fact, the thing I understood and noticed the most was that, startups do not have enough opportunities to pilot their projects, to demo their projects. So their lack of opportunity to prove new concepts is, I think, is the one area that we all can help startups improve in most. This helps us collect data, it helps us refine our process, helps us with that product solution fit. So incubators as homes for smart city innovation. One thing that I thought we did pretty well at the Urban Future Lab is that it was a public-private and academic partnership. So it was supported by NYU. It was supported by the State of New York and the Energy Research and Development Authority. It was supported by the Mayor's Office. It was supported by the New York City Economic Development Corporation. And it was supported by organizations like Samsung, ADT, Microsoft. So when I look at incubators, I see two sides. I see there's the internal part where you have startups and you have entrepreneurs who are doing great things. But then around that, you also have these organizations. So in my opinion, I really feel like incubators are at the heart of solving smart city problems, right? So they're bringing everyone together. Now, they might not be the only solution, but they are what brings everyone together to help tackle these issues. So at the Urban Future Lab, about 3 or 4 years ago, through multilateral collaborations, the City of New York and various consulates around New York City started teaming up and said, okay, how can we make things better? Now, from a city perspective, really what we care about is increasing jobs and increasing capital. And what we noticed was that we have an opportunity to use New York City, or any city at that point, as a launch pad for companies to come into new markets. So we started incubating companies from other markets. Currently, at the moment, we have the Danish Confederation of Industry sits at the Urban Future Lab, who they're actually here. They're actually here this week. We have a company called EV Box from Amsterdam, who have more electric vehicle boxes deployed around the world. There's another company which we found a lot of success with was Smarter Grid Solutions. So Smarter Grid Solutions was a company out of the University of Glasgow. And the University of Glasgow decided to create a partnership with NYU's Tannen School of Engineering. And actually, I really like this company for multiple reasons. The CTO is one of my closest mentors. And one thing I've learned with startups is customer discovery is one of the most important things. So what he did when he started his company, he was doing his PhD in electrical engineering. And it's one of the best customer discovery stories I've ever heard, because what he did was he went to the utility company, he went into the control room and he said, guys, what is the biggest problem you are having today? And they said, well, we have to deal with problems of intermittency. So there's not always sun, there's not always wind. I got to flip a switch every time I need to deploy solar energy. I got to flip a switch every time I need to deploy natural gas. I got to flip a switch every time I deploy wind. He said, okay. He comes back in 3 or 4 years and he developed what's called automated distributed generation. So rather than those guys having to flip a switch, they deploy sensors around the network so the system does it itself. So that's just a good lesson on customer discovery for any entrepreneurs out there. So after a couple years, Smarter Grid Solutions grew to a team of 40 out of Glasgow and London. They worked with every utility in the UK and I think 5 out of the top utilities in Europe, and said, let's go to America. So through their partnership with Glasgow University of Glasgow and NYU, Smarter Grid Solutions came to the Urban Future Lab. They came probably out after a Series B. They said, okay, we've accomplished our market. Let's go try a new one. So about 2 years ago, they came to the Urban Future Lab with 3 people. Since then, we were able to accelerate their process by 6 months to a year. They didn't come into unknown territory. We introduced them to all the right people at the right time. We help them legally and policy-wise. So if you guys are familiar with the utilities and electricity industry, every country is incredibly complex and incredibly different. And in the United States, each state is completely different. So we were able to work with them from a city and state level on how to navigate all of that policy. So we sped up their process by 6 to 12 months. So currently, they have big pilots with all the top utilities in New York State, with Con Edison, and they're doing projects with the National Renewable Energies Lab. So we were really able to accelerate their process quicker. So what we're working on at Global Futures Group is a network of solutions. We really saw an opportunity by companies like Smarter Grid Solutions, who have had success in their market, who have proven their model, and where their solutions can work in other places around the world. And we feel that by linking up and networking incubators or innovation ecosystems, innovation hubs, we can really accelerate the process of solutions around the world. So what does this do? This opens up new markets for innovative technology, solving global urban problems. That's pretty clear. Connects capital and technologies to underserved urban ecosystems. So for example, I might have a company in Tokyo who's working on a similar problem to a company in Montreal, for example. Now, they might not have the same solution, and they might not need to, sorry, I saw the 1 minute sign, it just completely threw me off. They might not have the same solution, but they can work with each other to navigate their policy. And for example, these companies, especially in an early stage, aren't going to be competitors. They don't need to be competitors. They should be collaborators. They should be learning from each other and leveraging this resource knowledge. So that takes me to the next point. It can help facilitate the exchange of knowledge, resources, and talents. And it doesn't only have to happen at a startup level. It can happen at a policy level. It can happen at a corporate strategic level with doing demos, with doing pilot projects. And as I said before, it can accelerate the process for new market entry via a global support network. So we really feel like for policymakers, for startups, for incubators, for venture capitalists, now is really the time to rise together, to work together, to create a network, much like that of Facebook, of Twitter, but something that can be more powerful and do it together. And we really feel like now is the right time in smart cities and the world. So thank you. If you want to tweet me, that's my Twitter handle, by the way.
Simon, thank you so much. I strongly believe in the idea that in order to create an effective ecosystem for innovation, you need much more than great entrepreneurs. You have to have great entrepreneurs with a lot of courage and innovative way of thought. But you have to have all the other players, because without them, they cannot do anything. You have to have investors and incubators and accelerators and corporates that will be able to work with those startups, because it's not easy for a corporate to work with startups. The government to support this ecosystem, the academia to publish research that entrepreneurs can take and make startups based on them. So we need all of those players, and thank you for sharing your ideas in that matter. Our next speaker is Aldo De Jong. Aldo is the co-founder of Claro Partners and Startup Bootcamp Internet of Things and Data. He helps corporations and startups to navigate disruptive change. With Claro, he provides business innovation and service design in the context of disruptive change in society and business, such as the personal data economy, new models for ownership, and value exchange network. Hello? Yeah. This is your point from now on.
Yeah, thank you for the intro, Menny. So I just press this button, right? Yeah. Okay, so thank you for the intro. So today I wanted to talk about what are some of the key challenges of that smart city startups have. And I understand that there are quite a few startups here in the room. Can I have again a hand of the startups in the room? Yeah. And those that are you considering yourself a smart city startup? Yeah, same? Okay. Anybody of you here that is beyond Series A, or are you early stage startups? Anybody is beyond Series A funding? Where are you today? Okay, congratulations. So we were. That's very good. I mean, we were talking before about the difficulty of getting funding, And actually, if you do things right, it's actually not that difficult to get funding, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So the Internet of Things is a space that we, with Claro partners and with Startup Bootcamp, IoT and Data, of course, have been looking a lot at, and we mapped out this entire landscape of Internet of Things, which is really incredible. It's the biggest emerging landscape that we have done so far, because obviously Internet of Things is the biggest space. A smart city is a very important part of that. And what was a very sad conclusion from mapping out all these about 500 startups was that most of them, to my opinion, were not going anywhere. They were not going to be successful. And why I agree with your point about iteration, if you start with a very, very bad idea and try to iterate from there, and you don't do it in the right way, in a customer-centric way, you will absolutely die and run out of money or run out of enthusiasm to do it. So it's actually very important that each of those experiments that you do something right, not just try something. Because what we found is that most of these startups are solutions looking for a problem. You definitely will not raise Series A if your company is a solution looking for a problem. You really have to be addressing a real problem and recognizing what that problem is, and that problem has to be unique. So a little bit about Claro Partners. I will keep it very brief because Menny actually already introduced us. So we are indeed an international business innovation and service design firm. We navigate disruptive shift. What we mean with that is we try to see when those new waves are coming, catching them, and help both startups and big companies and cities to identify new opportunities and strategies. We do this in this combination of combining social science to understand the changing behavior of people, experience design to imagine solutions for that, and business strategy to see how it fits in the market and the client. We are very much customer focused. My whole story here is about that, right? Solving a real problem of a real customer. That's very important. Our team, we are about 25 people from almost 20 different countries, so very international, but we're all here based in Barcelona. I'm Dutch, so I'm also not from here, but already here 12 years. I'm one of those many Barcelonians by choice. So I work with startups. We've been mapping out these different interactive maps of the startup ecosystem, and we really understand what are their challenges and what's happening and what's the new thing. We have this network of collaborators. We collaborate with investors, with Startup Bootcamp, obviously, and so we really understand what is happening. But was mentioned before, what is really important is to build these bridges between corporations and startups, because they can be extremely complementary. So working through accelerators that have a good body of corporate partners is really, really helpful. And I think you're from ENTIQ. We'll talk a lot more about this topic as well. Then there's all kind of different ways to help create and accelerate startups, and we try to be active across the whole range, because it really helps us to understand what are the early signals, where are things going. We are co-founders of Startup Bootcamp, IoT and Data here in Barcelona. We have just finished our first year. We had our demo day at Mobile World Congress, and we'll do that again this year. And there's, of course, Internet of Things and Data. There's quite a few smart city startups there as well. So what are the challenges that we found from working with these people? So the first one is they struggle to come up with a value proposition. They actually have a hard time validating if there's a real potential market. They struggle with showcasing their concept. Like most of the time when we map out those startup landscape is spent on really understanding what is this startup doing. Because everybody says we are the, let's say, smart city platform, or we are the Internet of Things platform, but there are 500 startups that say that. So you probably need to be a little bit more specific. So that's a big issue, communication issue. Working out the business model, finding a real good strategy for engaging customers, and lastly, particularly for Internet of Things, what's a really big challenge is bridging the physical and the digital. So on this first one, the value proposition, we did all this interview, and so here there was this one guy who participated in one of our IoT labs, and he said there was really a big gap. We didn't really know how to go from the hackathon idea to the business idea. So I'm actually a bit of a anti-hackathon guy, okay? Because I think that many hackathons are the same as this landscape I was showing before, because it's based on technology that is not going anywhere, creating hacking solutions, looking for problems. And that's why we sometimes have people come to us and they say, we have done all these hackathons, like one of our clients, 20 hackathons per year, and we have those 10 winners. Those are the best ones, and still those 10 winners can be pretty crap still. Okay, so we really have to take them through a program of training, mentoring and coaching to really redirect that initial solution looking for a problem to something that actually solves a real problem. So I found that pretty amazing that out of about 1,000 participants, still the best 10 need a lot of work to really hit the nail on the head. So that's why I'm anti-hackathon and more in favor of jams or labs or whatever you want to call it. The second point is market validation. So here we have this quote from Kevin Chua, who's the CEO of Rootmaker, and he said, if you go and focus on the product first, you make many assumptions. So don't do that. Don't say let's think about the product and then throw it into the market according to this lean cycle. First, really think hard. Make yourself informed about what your customer needs. Talk to a couple of customers. That doesn't cost that much money. And then really communicating well the concept. That's very difficult for many. So here this guy from Intel, he was talking about these people in their hackathon saying sometimes they really can't say what their product is about. They need to really know how to package themselves. That's a big issue that actually requires a lot of time, a lot of polishing. Starter Bootcamp, I think we spent quite a few weeks on that, really getting to that perfect pitch to really make it something that is short and clear and appealing. The business model. So here, the Thomas Kluter, who's an entrepreneurship professor here at IESE Business School in Barcelona, he says, the product will not sell itself. You have to identify the right distribution channels and the first customers. So there's all these different elements of the business model that people just, kind of glance over. They don't really stop and think about it and do a few iterations. So iterations on paper, I think, are very important for sure. Then there's this idea of customer engagement. How to really acquire customers is a big issue. You cannot just throw your product out there. It's like opening up a little shop somewhere in Barcelona in a side street and hoping that customers will come. The world of internet is exactly the same. So there was this quote from the customer acquisition. 1 minute. Is you have to get discovered. You have to leverage social media and network effects. All these kind of things together are essential. So the last thing that we have been looking a lot at, which is I think very interesting because we are entering this world of Internet of Things, is bridging the physical and the digital. And when you think about it, there's almost no company in the world, except a few that some of you are holding their product in their hand, like you, for example, Apple, right? That really knows very well how to bridge the physical and the digital. Most companies, even very large ones, even if they're good at electronics, they still struggle, let's say, to really bridge that with an online service. But all these startups are trying to do that. right? Because that's what you have to do if you want to do Internet of Things. There have to be a thing, and there has to be internet, right? So that's why we developed these IoT canvas that you can download together with our guide for succeeding in Internet of Things from our website. So it really can help you to figure out what are the different components and iterate a few times. So just to close off, I realize I'm out of time. So there's this remote training and mentoring program that helps startups to address those 6 challenges. It's like 6 modules that we run over 8 weeks, and we give the startups homework, and then we do a webinar, and then we mentoring sessions. So it's a bit like an accelerator program, but you don't need to be in the place. So thanks a lot for your attention, and let's continue the conversation.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I meet many startups, and many of them are facing the challenges and the problems that you've discussed on. A lot of startups come to me with a great solution to problems that do not exist, or they understand the problem very well, but they have no valid solution. I totally agree with that, and I recommend to go into those points. Our next speaker, Bianca Dragomir. Bianca is an entrepreneurship lead at Climate-KIC, the largest European partnership to foster innovation and entrepreneurship for climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. She is also General Director at the Valencian Energy Cluster AVAESEN in Spain. Have I said it correctly? AVAESEN? Yeah? Was it okay? Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Come to the stage.
Thank you very much. Well, it's a privilege to be here, and I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me. I've always thought that attention is the only currency that matters, so very happy to have these 12 minutes to share with you. And to follow the transition, I also would like to ask you a question. How many of you have ever done surfing? So quite a few. Let's see. Yeah, so you might know, and you might have seen that surfing is all about being in the right moment and in the right place, right? Of course, you need a board, you need to know how to swim, you also need to know a bit about the tides. But the real skill, I think, is to be able to look in that horizon and to see the patterns of that wave building. And it's only in order, if you do this, then you position yourself in order to make the most of that wave. And when I think about the green economy, and I think about the green wave, that's why I've started like this. And the green economy for me is like as when you're surfing. You see that there's a whole economy there coming, and it's just a matter of time until it comes and it encompasses everything in its way. No, and if we think that 85% of the consumers, 85% of us, at the time of buying a product, we take into consideration the environmental dimension of it, then I think we can all agree that the wave, the green wave, is quite close. But also, if we think that, if we read the recent news and we see that what happened with Volkswagen, then in the last 3 months, Volkswagen lost 35% of its market capitalization, we see that actually the customers have a big pain. They are asking, they are claiming, they are going to support a green economy. They want it. And what is most important is that they want painkillers. They have a pain, they want painkillers, not vitamins. Clean tech is not only a trend. It's not only nice to have, it's already a must-have. And of course, cities are the best setting where we need to work. Also because the clean tech is a multi-trillion opportunity. And if we think that low-carbon cities are a 50 trillion euro opportunity worldwide by 2050. So clean tech is here to stay, and we see it everywhere. And we don't need to cover all Spain with solar cells in order to be able to have electricity to feed the whole world. It would be possible, though. But yeah, for obvious reasons, this is not feasible. We have startups shaping the green economy. We have startups doing that in a smarter way, in a more decentralized way. They do solar on roof, on planes, on cars, on clothes, and not only solar. We have more renewable energies. We have more clean technologies that are being constantly developed. And by the way, we need them all, and we need them fast. So that's why we have Climate-KIC. Climate-KIC is Europe's largest public innovation partnership for climate change. Climate-KIC is created in 2010 by the European Union, by the European Technology and Innovation Institute, the EIT, which creates 3 KICs at that time. KICs meaning knowledge and innovation communities. What we pretend to do with these KICs, and especially with the climate, is to drive the sustainable growth in Europe in certain fields. In this case, in the climate, we look for innovation with climate impact. And of course, in order to pave that way to innovation to the market, we put the entrepreneur in the driver's seat, and at the core of the Climate-KIC, there is the Climate-KIC accelerator. And this is an accelerator that has become, in only a few years, the largest clean tech acceleration program in Europe. It is an accelerator that puts company through 3 stages, up to 12 months, in some cases a bit more, but more or less 12 months, 3 stages: business model definition, business model validation, which is the most important, and also I agree with the speakers before. It is the validation that actually tells that there's business or not. So we help the companies to fail fast as possible, and so that they could succeed sooner in redefining and reshaping their business. But especially in stage 2, they get out of the business. They do 100 customer interviews. They validate their business, and then it is only after that they get to stage 3, where they actually connect to investors and sale. We also have our masterclass series, which we are developing in all the hotspots of Climate-KIC, and there are 18 in total, with big experts, renowned experts from all over Europe and the world. And we also have the venture competition at the end of the program, where the best of the startups, they compete between themselves. We focus on the early stage startups. We want to help them to go easier through that valley of death to their first 3 years of existence, which are the most difficult, in order to get traction and also to get to be investor ready. And I must say that this accelerator has become quite famous worldwide, as you can see. And even though it started only in 2012, and so far the portfolio has attracted more than 130 million euros in private funding. As you can see on the map, we have these 18 hotspots, clean tech innovation hotspots in Europe, all over Europe, from north to south, east to west, from Portugal to Romania, from Estonia to Spain. Here we have our clean tech hotspot in Valencia. And these are just a few of the startups that we are supporting. Of course, we are intaking around an average of 200 startups per year. I can't go into detail to all of that, of course, but you are more than welcome to have a quick look at our website. And just to have a very quick overview over some of them, Tado, these guys have recently raised 12 million euros. I know that in the US probably you speak about much more millions, and probably 12 is just a common number. But here that's something quite impressive for a startup. And well, these guys they have developed a smart thermostat that uses your phone's location to cut your heating bill. Then we have Nerdolyze. This is a more recent one. They are working on data centers. The data centers, as we all know, they are wasteful and expensive. Nevertheless, solved these issues by taking surface out of the data centers and putting them in buildings. This will produce this heat where useful, and also it lowers the cost on infrastructure, and the energy on cooling is less. Then we have the fleet cleaner. The fleet cleaner, they are working. They have developed a robot that is eliminating the fouling. So those material that is on the surface of the boats, and it is produced by algae and all the slime and other components. So they remove this from the ship's hull, and this saves significant fuel costs for shipping companies, and they of course eliminate any chemical products. So all these they contribute to making our world a bit better, and also our cities a bit cleaner. And this is the climate launchpad, which we use in order to feed our accelerator. This is also the Europe's largest clean tech business idea competition. So if you have a clean tech idea, this is the website you have to check. Just a few data points. We run this competition around across 28 cities. We even run it this year in Israel and also in Iceland. So not only Europe. Also, we run climathons in cities, and the secret is actually that why 95% of our startups are successful, are still in the market after they finish the accelerator. Well, because of this cooperation model that we use, which is the triple helix involving government, research, education, and business. And I must say that I'm proud to work for Climate-KIC, which is the Europe's and world's largest experiment in open innovation for the climate. So just a very quick overview. These are the core partners, but we have more than 200 from all these sectors, as I mentioned, delivering 270 million euros in impact. And we use a dynamic acceleration model in order to push the idea to the market with the help of these clusters of innovation that we create in our all these clean tech hotspots that we've been building across the geographies. And of course, as you can see, we work under the thematic areas, and one of the themes is, of course, the smart cities. And just to finish, it is definitely a co-creation process in which we are working by involving all these stakeholders, the government, the entrepreneurs, the business, the big business, and also the startups, but also the academia and the R&D. And it is a constant co-creation process with end users, focus on keeping the spotlight on real solutions. And what it also helps us is that we have been building during these past years a pan-European city network to replicate across territories. So not only we work within the local ecosystems in this approach, but we also connect all these ecosystems within them in a pan-European approach. And this is how solutions actually go to market quickly. So this is our recipe for riding the clean tech wave. If you want to join us, I'm more than happy. So just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making the world a better place. Very exciting ideas. We have our last speaker for today. And then I'm going to ask you a question. If we will have time, I want to ask you all one question. But before that, we have our last speaker for today, Searle. Executive in residence of ENTIQ. Nick brings a history of engineering, growth, company management, and early stage investing to ENTIQ team, which has brought level 39 Cognicity and Innovate Finance to the market. Nick?
Thanks, Menny. I don't have a presentation. No. So due to technical difficulties, I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet because my computer crashed earlier today, so I don't have a deck to show you guys, but hopefully you'll forgive me. I just want to start off by kind of giving you a little bit of a background of some of the things that I've been up to, and that should kind of paint a little bit of a picture as to some of the things that I've identified and really why I got involved in the program that we've been running thus far. So first of all, as Menny mentioned, I have an engineering and electrical engineering background, and I joined a high-tech systems integration firm, and so I was working at kind of cutting-edge tablet computers over 15 years ago. Went through a nice bankruptcy because no one thought tablet computers was going to get anywhere, and so I switched over into a couple of different industries and managed to kind of sell a couple of businesses. I did a financial services business, sold that off, and then joined a couple of different funds and did some portfolio management. From there, I transitioned into early stage investing and focused directly on early stage, like seed, Series A funding of clean tech companies and some IoT. So, bottom line, got a background in tech, some SME management, and some finance. So that hopefully will paint a little bit of a picture to why I've identified some of the things that I have. So first of all, I think that every one of the panelists up here have been around enough and have obviously identified a lot of the key ingredients to what a successful incubator and acceleration program really must provide. And I think that I'll cheat and say that every one of their slides did a really good job of identifying them. I think one of the key elements that I want to talk about is, from my experience, one of the biggest things that you need to provide is new client base. And you really need, as a growth company, you need to be able to prove your technology, you need to prove your product by getting more clients and by getting bigger clients. And so one of the biggest things that I think accelerators and incubators really need to make an effort in doing thus far is aiding in that. So all of the key elements, as we've identified already, are a must. So yes, you must be able to help get your value proposition defined. You must be able to identify a problem before you can identify a solution. Yes, you must have a go-to-market strategy. Yes, you must get funding and have an organized cap table. But a lot of the accelerators around the world are providing all of these and doing a really good job at it. But what I kind of sum that up by saying we'll tell you how to do it, and we'll give you some money and then kind of let you go and do it. I joined the Cognicity program, which started earlier this year and finished up in July. As the mentor in residence, I got a pretty sweet title as executive in residence instead. But I helped a lot of the companies kind of do exactly those things. But I joined that program because what it really did and really identified for me was that it was never about the money. It was never about the prize at the end of the acceleration program as a coin purse. But what it was simply about integration. And we worked very closely with the Canary Wharf Group, which is a major property developer in London. And they've got a major build on their estate, as well as got a new build coming. I think it's another 40 to 50 acres that they're building. So what they intended to do was kind of stay out in front of the property development market and get access to some of the earliest stage innovations going on. They wanted to implement them in the current estate, and then they also wanted to implement them into the new build as well. So what we did, and when I say we, I'll kind of describe who we are in a minute, is design six different program streams so that we could kind of focus the nebulous smart city terminology, and we looked at many different streams that would affect Canary Wharf. So as a property owner, a property and building designer, and property manager, they had lots of different things underneath their organization that they wanted to try and innovate. So we had multiple things like integrated transportation, automated building management, sustainable buildings, etc. We had 6 streams. And many of the companies we've actually brought with us here to the exhibition. And if you come by the UKTI booth, you'll see a handful of them. But what the intended outcome was a pilot project. So there was a coin purse available to the winners, but a pilot project was really what was put on the table. The program was designed to have Canary Wharf as our client, so we never charged an equity stake in any of the companies. So that, I think, was one of the big key drivers for some of the innovation companies to come and have a look at what we were up to, because we didn't have a really cost-prohibitive model. So the intention was to deliver 6 pilot projects, and I think the program went very well. And what ended up happening is the Canary Wharf Group identified 14 pilots that they wanted to run out of the program, and we ran 36 companies through the 6 different streams. So I think that that's one of the major successes, and one of the reasons why they chose 14 was we were able to work with the innovators and kind of clearly articulate what the return on investment would look like for the Canary Wharf Group to say, yes, we'll look at this technology if you can prove that we'll be able to save money here, we'll be able to improve our revenue streams elsewhere. And so some of that data should be coming out early next year, and we'll be able to kind of point to that as some of the success that we've had. So I want to then say that part of the reason that why we're down here as well is that the next phase for that, we ran the accelerator program through the first half of this year. For the second half of the year, what we've been doing is we've been going through all of the laborious process of implementing new procurement models and really getting some of the pilot technologies integrated into a very large corporate's daily piece of work. So that has been a massive undertaking, and where we are now is we've created a physical space. So we've created the Cognicity Hub, and again, you can find out a little bit more information about that by coming by the UKTI booth. We've got lots of information. We've got our team there to tell you more about it as well. So the we is a company called ENTIQ, and the ENTIQ should be easy to remember if you think of authentic. Our tagline is authentic innovation. Our background is very much like Aldo's, and I think that I could again have stolen your slide deck. I think a lot of the similarities are happening there. But as innovation consultants, what we have done is we've worked with large corporates to bring innovation to them. We are actually transitioning away from innovation consultants into ecosystem facilitators, and really what that looks like is, as again we've learned, there are many key elements to what an ecosystem must contain. Innovators, it must contain the large corporates who bring the money. It must contain access to government so that you can have regulation change. Must have access to thought leaders and academics so that you can actually have thought leadership going on. And you got to stir that pot and make sure that everyone is working well together, and you got to facilitate that to make sure that all the pieces are meeting each other. And so ENTIQ is absolutely doing that. Cognicity is one of the case studies that we've brought to the market. Level 39 is another one. Level 39 has been primarily focused on fintech companies. So really our model is agnostic of what industry we're looking at, but smart cities has really been one of the biggest ones that we've been looking at recently. So we are in the process of transitioning to that, and like my colleagues on the stage here said, a global network must be kind of a key element to that. So one of the biggest things that we came here to do was to start looking for partners to build out that global network. And so I think we've got a lot of them up here, which has been absolutely fantastic. So I just wanted to close off, and I'm going to finish early, is by saying we really must identify what some of the drivers are for corporate change, and we must stay in front of what takes place there so that we can continue bringing innovation there. Our business model has identified that is one of the key elements that you have to go to market with, is to engage the corporates directly so that you can fund this and not charge the innovators their precious capital. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much. I want to ask you just one question. Thank you for all the great presentations. I want to ask you just one question and answer it briefly, and we will conclude the session. And the question is, how do you see smart cities 4 years from now? Anyone wants to start?
Hello. Oh, it was working. Nice. So I cheated and wrote an answer down. So I think that, that's a really massive question. So I think we could spend 6 hours talking about it, but I'll try and be a little more focused. So given the theme of what we're up here talking about, incubators, accelerators, and bringing to market, I think that in 4 years, one of the biggest things that I'd like to see, and obviously we're all up here making an effort to make this happen, is put in place the framework to be able to quickly prove concepts, new innovations, and bring them to market quickly with the necessary funding and all the regulation hurdles taken out of the way, so that innovation can be brought to market as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
I agree with you, and I agree that, of course, to help startups working with cities, procurement needs to be fixed. That's for sure. But I also see cities. It's going to be interesting to see with all open data that is going to be made available. So my wish, and hopefully that's that's what I see coming, is that the city will be much more probably open to iteration, because they will get a lot more information, and they will have to adapt more rapidly, for sure, with the data that they will get. So
You actually took mine. No, I think
not
no.
fair.
You said no. Adapt. I think innovation's never going to stop, and it's going to be companies that exist today. It's going to be their ability to take data and adapt to the changes in the world, to adapt to current innovation, who are going to stay alive. But we're also going to see new companies emerging, with new issues emerging from developing countries, especially. I mean, India, China, and Africa are going to play a much bigger presence, and I think in as short as 4 years. So we're going to see an adaptive, innovative economy.
You say adapt. I continue on the same line, and I say align and also assimilate all the technologies that we've been developing. It's quite impressive what we are facing, right? And I always thought, well, we need cities that communicate that with its citizen, right? We need to feel safe, and we need to not to be alienated from the city, right? So sometimes you have you have all these devices and all these technology that they are meant to help you, but actually in the end they kind of because there are so many, cities then get more lonely, no? So I think in 4 years' time, I think there will be a bit more cohesion in that, and the technologies, the cities will be aligned, and they will assimilate all these technologies at the time that they will still develop, we will have safer cities in this sense, and more comfortable, more shared cities.
I really like the direction you were going, Bianca, because I wanted to redefine. I hope that in 4 years from now, all of us in this room and all the other rooms and this whole conference, will have redefined the idea of a smart city. Because if you say, that is a really smart person, right? That guy is smart. What do you mean? Do you mean that they wear a Google Glass and a watch and a wearable and electric vest and I don't know, all those kind of things? No, that's not what you mean, right? You mean that somebody that is clever or making smart decisions. And so I would like smart city to say Barcelona is a smart city. I would like that not to mean it's full of technology, right? But I would like that to mean they make smart decisions. They are smart about how they create entrepreneurial ecosystems. They're smart about how they make the city safe and things like that. Because like I was talking about before about Internet of Things, that it's not going anywhere in most cases, the same is true for smart cities. I think that smart city initiative, like this conference and many of the all the smart city conferences are completely dominated by technology companies wanting to sell technology to cities, and they say you have to become a smart city, and that's why you have to invest a lot of money in technology. So it's again this technology first idea, and there are a few examples of cities around the world that they followed this lead of the technology companies, and they have created a very unpleasant, cold cities, and a lot of money spent not by the cities but by the technology companies that were trying to push that agenda. Because that's the other issue, that people think that smart cities is a very big opportunity because cities are very big, so there's a lot of money. But that's a very big misconception, because the people in the cities will always still have to pay for it, and so it has to have relevance for their lives. So that's why I think we have to really change quite a bit of how we talk about smart cities.
Thank you so much. So, if I had to choose just one thing that was said in all of your presentations, let's work together. Let's collaborate. Startups should work with the customers. Corporations should work with accelerator programs. Everybody should work with everybody. It's very important for everyone here to exchange business cards, have the discussion, share information, share great ideas. I encourage you to talk with the guys from 4 years from now. If you are from 4 years from now, please raise your hand. Okay, so you can approach those guys. I also encourage you to join us in our next and super exciting session. It's going to be here in 3 minutes. We're going to have the competition, the 4 years from now award Smart City Edition, the final, where we will have 5 startups that will pitch 5 minutes each their ideas, and the esteemed judges that we have here will choose who will be the winner, who will be the startup that will have the greatest pitch of all. It's going to be exciting and it's going to be fun. So please join us. And I want to thank Beatrice, Simon, Nick, Bianca, and Aldo. I want to thank you so much for your effort and for your time here. Thank you, everybody. See you again in 3 minutes.